our bodies are built a certain way. It follows the math of the universe. Basically, our bodies are sacred geometry, and our bones are calcium and silica and phosphorus, and we're basically walking oscillators of energy. We're transmitters of frequencies. We create electromagnetic fields just by having the blood, which has iron in it, run through our body. It creates magnetic fields. So when you're actually standing in a posture or doing a posture, what you're doing is you're changing the way energy moves through your body. So if your body is made up of all these different energy fields, if you know which posture corrects these energy fields and you do it, what you're doing is you're strengthening and realigning your natural energy fields. And I told you earlier that I had dyslexia and I had stuttering and all these things. When I did the Qigong, those went away. And the only thing I can think of is that my energy fields, especially the energy fields of my mind, had distortions in them. And I believe we all have distortions in our energy fields. And by doing these postures, we're correcting these distortions. We're correcting these energy fields and how they flow through our body. And once those corrections are made, suddenly I'm a changed person. And I'll say that there's tens of thousands of people already around the world practicing this Qigong that I received. And all I'm doing is just sharing it. There's no like classes or I'm the master, you're the student. There's none of that. I'm just sharing what I saw in a dream. This was an astral journey. This is what was given, and now I'm sharing it. And the most amazing thing is that the testimonials from people around the world and what they've shifted in themselves is unbelievable. So it gives me a lot of gratitude that I can share this with people.
I can already see sharing it in the parks and up here in Salida. So I'll have to get you to come to Salida, Colorado, and you can share away.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, okay, your book, I mean, we just don't have enough time to hit all of these topics. I mean, you hit so many fascinating topics. I want you to pick one. Is there something in this book that just affected you the most, or is there if you had to pick something, what would be one of the stories in your book that you really would like to share?
The most important thing in that whole book, well, there's lots, but the one that really had a profound influence on me was the voices are not yours. Do you remember that part?
Yes.
Basically, yes. The whole concept is thoughts come from outside of us. Visions come from outside of us. And they may not necessarily be yours. So you could be picking up on other people's thoughts and visions. You could be picking up on memories that are left in the environment. And more sinister, you can actually receive information, thoughts, and visions that have been placed there purposefully for an agenda. So when I realized that, because I had a very chatty mind, some nights it would be very hard for me to go to sleep because my mind would just be running wild. And once I learned that a thought is a very powerful source of energy, it takes a lot of energy for us to think and generate a thought. So if someone is having a mind that is running wild, they're basically just giving their energy away. That's what they're doing. Especially if you know someone that talks, they just can't stop talking. What they're doing is they're just giving their energy away. That's all they're doing is just giving energy away. So what happened was a powerful medicine man said to me, what if I told you your thoughts and visions are not your own? And when a thought comes into your mind, I want you to say, "This is not my thought form. Please leave now." And I started to do this over and over again. And I did this for about a month, or I know I did this for about a couple months until something happened. And it was a physical change. Something happened in the brain. There was a click. I felt something almost shift and move in my brain. And when that happened, the thoughts were gone. There was no thoughts coming through my head. Like, even when I'm talking to you, I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say, right? Before this, if I was going to talk to somebody, I would like think of everything I want to say. I want to write it all down and make sure I go through this. Now, when I do a speech or a lecture or even a radio interview, I go with nothing at all, you know, because that's not how we're supposed to work. Once you think, you're cutting your energy off. But what happens was, I was sleeping in bed one night and I was having a dream. And in my dream, I had a voice come to me, and it was my own voice. And it said, "Jason, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you have cancer. You're going to die very soon." I think they said it was a couple months I was going to die. And start to, you know, tell your family and friends that you're sick, basically. And I started to feel very sad. You know, it's like, oh, what am I going to do? You know, I'm dying. And then the thought came to me again. I remembered, your thoughts aren't yours. And once I said that, I popped out of my body. I rose above the bed, and I saw that I wasn't alone in my bed. There was a being laying down beside me, talking in the back of my head. And right when I saw that, it was game over. It's like, okay, I'm done. And like you said earlier, what about this fear? You know how many times I've been so angry in the astral world? The anger is just, it's there because you don't want to be manipulated. You know, you don't want to be played with. So when you start to see that you're being played with, you want it to stop. So what I did was I grabbed this being, and these things are totally shocked. It's like catching a child stealing something. You know, they're just totally shocked that you've caught them. And, you know, I grabbed it, I asked it, you know, "Who are you?" And it just gave me complete gibberish, and it tried to get away, but I wouldn't let go. And then I asked, "Are you a being of the light?" And it said no, which was strange because this being looked like an angel. It was glowing white light. And I just said, you know, basically F off and don't come back again and don't manipulate me. So we all do this. Like, let's say you're driving in your car or walking down the street, and a thought will come to you, and you're like, why would I think that? Just doesn't make any sense why I would think that. You know, or even have a dream, like, this dream is not mine. You know, these beings will place these thoughts or these visions or dreams within us, and it will cause a reaction in us. And that reaction is what they want. They want that reaction to either get closer to us or to extract energy from us. So we have to learn, no, you are not my thoughts, please leave now. And you start to actually gain your energy. All right, so it's very important. Also think of this. If a thought is so powerful and it takes so much of your energy to produce and have a thought, what if you had no thoughts? You would just be building energy within you. And then when you do have your own unique thought or intention, think of how much energy you're going to put behind that one intention of the mind.
Yeah, that kind of makes you go cross-eyed when you think about it.
Yeah.
I like that. That's really powerful. That's cool.
It is. It is. You know, but you know, going back to all the experiences that he had in his growing up years, and you know, like he said, you know, if you sometimes star seeds, you know, were we come here and we can't eat the food and we can't deal with the EMFs, and it's almost like, okay, we could sit around and just be sick our whole life, or we could use that to reawaken ourselves. And that's exactly what you've done, Jason, is you've reawakened who you really are. You know, that's what I get out of, you know. But I have a question, because I write books and we're talking about thoughts and how we, you know, use our thoughts, and it kind of can drain some of our energy. When, for me, you know, I write a lot of fiction, but a lot of it is based on, you know, forbidden knowledge and stuff. I use a whole lot of energy to write these fiction books. Do you think that a lot of these fiction writers that write things that are maybe based on forbidden knowledge, do you think that we're picking up on things that are already there? You know, are we picking up on things that have already happened? Or, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien is another one that always comes to mind. Is there a correlation between some of these fiction writers and what's already been out there and needs to come through?
Yes, absolutely. And look at the work of Philip K. Dick. All right, Blade Runner and all these things.
Yeah.
Like, he had his religious experiences, his spiritual awakenings, and he had a realization that the information that he was receiving all his years could have been different timelines or parallel universes or parallel Earths, and that fiction may not be what we think it is. These ideas and thoughts come from somewhere, and I believe there is a lot of truth in them.
You know, I think the word fiction and fantasy are fallacies, because a lot of fantasy, a lot of science fiction, you know, Star Wars, we even talk about it today. If you see it on Star Wars, it's because it's already out there, folks. You know, so we really do need to get this terminology straightened out. And, you know, well, I hate to say that I write fantasy. So yeah, that's very, very, very interesting.
But think,
I have a question.
but think of this, is that, you know, a couple hundred years ago, they would write science fiction of metal aircrafts in the air, and that was science fiction. And then they created it. It's the same thing with Star Trek or Star Wars. You know, we're already creating that dream of this is what's possible in our future. And because we've created it in our dream, we're actually moving towards it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always think. We're moving our way to, we're getting closer to it. We're going up to it.
But if we see it in a dream, doesn't that mean it's probably already in existence somewhere?
I would say there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we've even lived this life before. Maybe we come back to do it a seventh time.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that's how I think about this event. Everybody's talking about the event. The event is coming. I think we've already seen the event.
I didn't get an invitation.
You what? You didn't get an invitation?
There's an event?
See? My point exactly. Well, I just think that it's almost like, you know, Groundhog Day. It seems like we come around this stuff over and over again, and, you know, maybe we learn something from this one circle, and then we move up higher. We go around again, and then we learn something, and then we move up higher, and we're constantly moving up higher and higher and higher. But, you know, all this stuff gives me a heck of a lot to write about. You know, I wanted to talk to you, but I know you were able to do an ayahuasca ceremony, and then you got into DMT, and I really found that really fascinating. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, just a disclaimer, I only did that stuff way after I had these experiences.
Okay.
Didn't come first, it came after. And for me, ayahuasca was actually very cleansing and purifying. It wasn't like a psychedelic outer body experience that most people talk about. I didn't really receive any information or messages. For me, it was a physical thing. So I had, it was almost like I can feel the ayahuasca. And remember, these medicines are spirits. You're basically, it's basically a possession. You're allowing another conscious being to possess you. That's what these things actually are, right? So when I took on that spirit of the ayahuasca, I can actually feel it moving around my body, like jumping from place to place, to organ. And if there was a problem in the organ, it would stay there for a while. And I would go, oh no, this is bad. And then I'd feel it move to somewhere else. I'll tell you, I fasted for 3 days just on coca leaf and water for before the ceremony. And then after the ceremony, and I don't want to gross anybody out from these experiences, but after that ceremony, I think I was stuck to a washroom for 3 days.
Purging.
It was all purging. It basically felt like everything in my body was coming out, everything. And it was disgusting. It was hard. And I wish I didn't have to go through it, but obviously the spirit said, this is what you need. So for me, it wasn't really a psychedelic thing. It was more of a physical cleansing. And it actually made me very, very sensitive to things. For example, when I came back from Peru, this was around the time when McDonald's had, they were marketing their new coffee. All right. And I was downtown Toronto. I was waiting for a friend, and they had a sign in front of the McDonald's that says, come in for a free coffee. And I was just waiting. It was cold out. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get this free coffee. So I got the coffee and I drank it. And within the first sip, it felt like electric ants going through my veins, electric ants going through my brain, just from like one taste of it. And I was like, this is a freaking drug. Because the ayahuasca and all these things purged my body of all these. I think it just opened up all these neuron receptors in me. And then I tried something, and I tried something like a simple thing like coffee, and I was over the top. I'm like, okay, I can never drink coffee again. So the ayahuasca did change me. It was very interesting.
What would be your thoughts on ayahuasca? Is it always, your comments about it being the spirit reminded me of the teachings of Don Juan book, if you ever read that book, and there's a lot of interesting concepts laid out along those lines. Would you consider ayahuasca always benevolent?
No. None. You see, everything has this polarity to it. And it really has to do with you and your intentions and what you carry. Remember, there's people that will go to Peru, drink ayahuasca, and then like murder somebody and they're just totally blacked out and they'll murder somebody because there's something inside of them that it's exposing. It's a bad possession. This is why people like to go to the clubs and drink lots of alcohol, because they want the spirits within them. If you're psychic, go to a club. It's a madhouse of spirits. They're just waiting for you to drink so that they can connect with you. So it's all about intentional use, and it has to be done in some type of ceremony or ritual. It's extremely important. For example, when I said to you I did the ayahuasca, I did fast. made sure I fasted properly with the coca leaf. That's what they do there. And then afterwards, I didn't really eat anything either, especially meat. You're not supposed to eat meat when you do this. So you're preparing your energy to take on this spirit so that it will be a positive outcome. If you're just nonchalant about it and you don't care and you just want the experience, you may be visiting some pretty awful things.
You know, but that is so true, because I used to do a lot of sweat lodges. And it was really interesting because one guy brought bears in the lodge with him, and he screamed that the bears were ripping him apart. And one woman, it was really interesting. And it was in November, and when the lodge, it started waking up the hornets that had hibernated in the blankets. And she's like, okay, everybody, just be careful what you think about the hornets so they don't bite you. Well, guess who got stung? She did. So,
Yeah.
you know, so it's all our thoughts and what we put out there. And okay, I had another question, and my dyslexia got to me, and I wanted to go into, I know. You talk a lot about Lemuria and Atlantis in your books, and I write a lot about Lemuria too. And you know that you lived a lifetime in Lemuria and Atlantis. And you were a priest. Weren't you a priest in Atlantis?
Yes.
Yes. So you kind of know what kind of led to the downfall. Or if there was a downfall.
I would say there's many factors. There's literally many factors. And I would say that at that time, I feel we're in Atlantis right now, actually. It's just a cycle. So
yes.
we get destroyed, we come back, we are Atlantis again, and we get destroyed again. So I see a big mirror of what we're going through. And I think the biggest mirror in Atlantis was weather manipulation, climate manipulation. And they had technology where they could manipulate, let's say, if there was a drought, they could bring rain. If they were warring with somebody, they could bring drought. They could do tidal waves. They can do earthquakes. And remember, everybody talks about how, we're ascending, we're trying to raise our frequency, our vibration. Everything is cyclical. So as we go up, we come down. In fact, there's a teaching in Qigong where they say, and I'll try to put my fingers up here. So this is the plateau. This is the ground. Everybody wants to move up, right? But you can't move up, and you can't take a step forward unless you take a step backwards, right? So it's more like we're expanding both ways. It's not just you're grounded and now you're ascending. You have to actually do this. That's the expansion of consciousness. So in Atlantis, there was weather manipulation caused. So there might have been priests and very conscious people there, but there was also the other side, just like there is today. And there's always flipping of control. They talk about 2,000 years of light and 2,000 years of darkness, and that's a cycle. It's not like it's not like it's all dark in 2,000 years and it's all light in 2,000 years. It's like 50-50 dark and light. It's like yin and yang. The difference is that in 2,000 years, it's the light and conscious people that are in charge. And then you still have that negative aspect, but then they take control and they're in charge for a couple thousand years, but we're still here. So it's just kind of a flipping of a cycle. It's not really like we're kicking out the cabal and it's light forever. I mean, that's not how these cycles work. But so in Atlantis, sorry for getting off track, but in Atlantis, we had the weather manipulation, which made the earth unsteady. So you had violent climate disasters, and this is what led to the sinking of Atlantis. The different priests, they work with crystals, and they had these crystal caves underground where they would go and communicate with these crystals. And the crystals warned these priests hundreds and hundreds of years before these events even took place, because they could project themselves and see the future timelines that were coming. So they prepared, and they had colonies all over the planet. They had it in Polynesia, in Egypt, in Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, in North America, actually. There's a lot of stuff in North America we don't know about. So spread all over the world. Oh, and Japan was a big one. There's a big colony in Japan. They spread all around the world. They had colonies. So when this did happen, there would be record keepers that kept these stories alive. And this is what kickstarted a lot of the ancient cultures like Egypt and Sumer. All these ancient cultures, they came with this powerful knowledge already.
To expand on your crystals, for me, I think that when we communicate with crystals, we're communicating with Gaia herself, and she's been here since the very beginning. So can you imagine the knowledge she has and everything that she's experienced and she's seen? And you know, I'm always in there trying, come on, give me more, tell me, there's so many things. But you know, it's like if we lived so many lifetimes, you know, you look up at the fake full moon and you go, I wonder how many lifetimes I've spent looking up at that fake full moon. So don't you think, though, that Gaia has so much to do with this, as far as the cycles and how much we learn each time we experience a new cycle? Don't you think that we need to reconnect with Gaia? Don't you think that she's a big part of this?
Yes. And just remember that your body is full of the crystals and minerals of the earth. All right. We have the silica in our bodies, especially our brain and organs, especially we have magnetite crystals in our brains as well. So we're attuned to the electromagnetic fields of the earth. And by connecting to ourselves and loving ourselves and correcting our distortions, we realize that there is no separation between us and Gaia, and we can retrieve those memories out of the book of life or Akashic records or whatever we want to call it. But yeah, so there's always a cycle, and also just remember the moon, because you mentioned the moon. If the moon wasn't there, there would be no life on Earth. It would be impossible. You know, so all these things serve a very important process in our evolution here. And the more that you research it, the more you see that a very, very long time ago, our planet could have been terraformed so that these type of beings, like human beings, can survive here. Because the planet would have been inhabitable or non-inhabitable. So something happened a very long time ago where there was some type of terraforming that took place on the planet, which allowed different beings to actually be able to live here.
And you say that the moon plays a part in that?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The moon is remember, the moon makes the tides. It moves the water. It helps with the atmosphere. So the moon actually has a levitating effect. It has this anti-gravity effect with the natural elements of Earth, and it keeps everything in this perpetual cycle. It moves the climate. So without the moon, the Earth would basically be in complete chaos environmentally.
And I had one more question for you too. You were mentioning cycles.
Yes.
These cycles we got, if for the contrast, up cycle, down cycle, or light and dark, and you know, light's in control, the dark's in control. But these are happening. So Are these cycles out of our control? Are we really just on a roller coaster as passengers, or do we really control our reality, this reality?
The answer is actually both. So you're along for the ride, right? Because, if we had control of everything, we'd be like Neo, we'll just say move and the mountain will move, right? But so you're along for the ride, but as you're along for the ride, you're given the free will and choice to decide your own destiny in that ride.
So in a way, confined in the paradigm. So we have a limited choice. Not unlimited, but our choices really are limited then, within the confine of the paradigm.
That's right. Well, think of personal experience. If you're born in a certain place at a certain time with a certain family, you're born into those circumstances. So even though you have free choice, you're still bound by your experience of this is where I came from, this is the world I live in. And that's part of the whole, I'll call it the matrix of experience. You're given that input that this is your foundation of life. Now let's see how you experience it and what you do with those circumstances.
Create with what you're given or what you have. Yeah,
that's right. Because, there's a lot of misconceptions in the spiritual community where it's like everybody's like, oh, just think positive thoughts and it'll come to you. But, tell that to a person who was born into a very abusive family. They'll be very angry with you because that's not how they see the world. That's not their experience. But in their experiences, they can use that experience to transform themselves if they know how to use that energy for their own benefit. So people get stuck in their experiences and it becomes the story of their life. And people then get unstuck by their experiences and use those experiences as a platform to achieve.
Wow, those are some great words. I really like that.
Thank you.
Just a lot to take away with here. There's, like I said, there's just a plethora of knowledge in this book. And we just don't have enough time. We're going to have to get Jason to come back, maybe. I don't know. And then have him come back and talk about this one. But you did say something interesting a couple times, and you talked about loving your body. And I think that's something that people also need to take away with. We forget that this body is a vessel, and I tell my body all the time that I'm grateful for it. It's my car, right. And without it, I couldn't experience this experience. And there's so many people that treat their body as disposable. Everything today is disposable. So I'm really glad that you touched on that a few times as far as loving your body.
Oh yeah, we're not cyborgs yet.
Hey, Jason.
I don't want to be.
Yeah.
So Jason, you're thecrystalsun.com.
That's right.
thecrystalsun.com.
Yeah.
What do you have available on there? What are you offering on your website?
I have many different things. You could find all my books and DVDs on the website. I also have things that interest me, like I have different crystals. So soon I'm going to have a whole new shipment of meteorolite, auralite, different types of beautiful crystals. I think at the moment I have things on the website like just like jewelry. This is like the sales pitch part of the interview, right? So. But yeah, so and you can find the ferro cylinders there, all different types of things that I enjoy. And, I've been selling crystals for, maybe about 15 years I've been selling crystals. So that's something I've always done. And with the other products, whenever I start talking about something new, people say, well, can you get those for me? So I just put them up on the website.
Cool. Do you have the Egyptian postures system you had worked out on the site?
Yeah, I have this book, The Egyptian Postures, The Power, on the site, and it comes with a DVD as well that will walk you through it.
Yeah, don't order it off of Amazon because they won't
No.
send you the DVD.
Amazon doesn't bundle it, but I will send you a digital version so you don't have to get the DVD.
Well, hey, can you talk a little bit about the Matoralite?
Yes, of course.
That's a new crystal that I think a lot of people have never heard of before.
No, it's let me see if I could find. You don't mind me standing up for a second here?
Go ahead. We didn't rehearse this.
No.
Live? Is it live or is it Memorex?
Oh, you're gonna like this one.
That's what happens when you get a couple dyslexics together, you know.
All right, so this is an Auralite 23 crystal. All right, it comes from northern Ontario, around Thunder Bay, and it's 2 billion-year-old amethyst that was, during the time that area was struck by a meteorite. And that meteorite basically vaporized and put about 23 rare metals and minerals into this crystal as it was forming. So when you feel this crystal, it's very heavy. It has a lot of metal in this crystal. So some of these crystals have a very, very thick metal top. So it's like you have this beautiful amethyst crystal, but the top of it is almost solid metal, which is very strange, very rare. So I took this crystal and I was meditating with it one day. And as I was falling asleep in the meditation, I had a vision of this rope in space. That's what it looked like, a rope in space. And this rope was covered in a thick clay-like material. And I was watching this rope in space, and suddenly the rope just twisted. It just went like this, just twisted. And the clay just exploded off the rope. And the rope was just this shimmering, gorgeous, light rope. Just beautiful rope underneath. And when it twisted and it broke, it felt like my body exploded. My body broke, opened. So I jumped out of bed, still holding the crystal. And I hear a voice in my head, and it said, "Be still. We're activating dormant DNA." That's what the voice said. And I knew it was the crystal that was the catalyst for this event. So I went back to my friend who actually owns the mine, and I said, any crystal that looks like this, it has to look like this, with this metal top. That's mine. I'm buying all of them. So I searched through all the stones, and I picked out all the ones that look like this. And because they were slightly different than the original Auralite, which I showed you here, slightly different, I just called it Metoralite, which just means metal Auralite, or more metal, or more magnetic properties. So it is an Auralite 23 crystal. It just has a very unique cap to it. So actually my friend is coming back from the mine in a week or two, which means he's bringing all new crystals. And when that happens, I'm going to be sifting through all of them to find these again. And when I find them, I'm going to put them directly on my website.
Great. Yeah, Denise needs one. So if somebody was to order one of these crystals, how would they use it, and what could they expect from using it besides activating a strand of DNA? And we know what that would do.
Well, because I call it the multivitamin of crystals, because not only is it amethyst, and amethyst is, the spiritually protective, spiritually awakening crystal. It also carries those 23 metals like gold, silver, platinum, zinc, copper, iron. All these metals have a purifying effect, they have an amplifying effect, and they have a shielding effect. So you're almost getting this very powerful shamanic crystal to use. And there's many ways to use it. Like I got this big hunker, it's a pretty big stone. this is in my office. So it's just, on the floor, grounding the energy. And then when I meditate, there's a couple crystals that I like. There's two kinds. There's one that's like a point, which I call a scepter. So it fits in your hand absolutely perfectly. And then you have another crystal that it's like a pyramid and has a flat bottom. So what I do is I call this one like a crown, and this is a scepter. So I hold the scepter in my hand and I lay it on different parts of my body. So I lay the crown on different parts of the body, and I feel that because it's the same stone from the same mine, they are already in communication with each other, and they're working on the area that I place the crown crystal. So you're creating a circuit by holding it in your hand and placing it on the body. That's how I use them.
Okay.
Other than that, you just grab it in your hand and meditate with it, or just hold it and see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I probably need two of them then. Okay, sell more books. Okay. Well, Zach Luda, you got another a question before we let Jason go? We've kept him over an hour and a half here.
Yeah, well, I do have some more, but yeah, maybe we can hook up again. I really enjoyed talking to you, Jason. Great information, and I'm sure it'll be of great benefit for people in Healing Earth. I think about, we talk about astral traveling, dreaming, whatever dreaming is, something's going on, right? But we are here right now in this dimensional physical earth, and we seek to remedy the melee and the discordance that we're going through. At least that's how I see. I would like to have more joy. I would like to see less strife and the control system go away and the controllers and things like that. So, this information that you bring forward, how do you see the information you share helping bring remedy?
It all starts with the individual. You can't yell this information from the top of a building, and try to change the masses, because many people are here not to change, and we have to accept that. We can't, force them into anything. So it's all about inner transformation, and many people get awakened just by having a feeling that this world is not what it's supposed to be, or I shouldn't feel this way. That's the first step of awakening, is becoming conscious of what we don't want. And when we figure out what we don't want, then we say, well, how do we transform ourselves or shift ourselves into being a better person, so that we don't get affected by all these influences. And there's always influences. I mean, it's like being spiritual doesn't mean escaping. All right? Being spiritual means facing and coming out of it. That's what it means. So it's really about physical and spiritual strength and mental strength, because there's a lot of stuff out there and you can really go down the rabbit hole. But again, why give your energy to something outside of you? So remember, everything that we study, everything that we go down, even conspiracy theories, you're putting your life force, your energy into that information, and you're actually assisting in the growth of it. So the best thing to do is not give your thoughts to those things. The best thing is to give your thoughts to yourself, and then you'll have real transformation.
Awesome.
Can't top that. Okay.
Okay.
So before we go, what is your newest project? Do you have a new project coming up?
I was speaking to you earlier. I was supposed to be writing some new material, but time is just getting eaten up, and I'm traveling a lot this year. So hopefully in the wintertime, I'll start to do new books. There's a book that I just helped with, and that is called Clear Hearers by John D'Souza, former FBI agent. That's a really cool book. That just came out on Amazon a couple days ago. And other than that, I think I'm going to write some more about these subjects because people are hungry for it. People, they get inspired by this type of information.
Well, and you're so, what is the level-headed about it? You just, you draw us in, you know, and it's so easy, like you said, it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole, or it's so easy to get caught up into all that outside interference.
Yeah.
And when listening to you, there just doesn't seem to be any of that interference going on. So
you can be aware. Like, I know there was a shooting that happened in
Right.
Las Vegas, so you can be aware of current events, but be careful where you decide to give that energy.
That's right. Yeah. Don't let it consume you. Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jason, for coming here and spending time with us. We really appreciate it. And we hope to have you back again, but we know how busy you are traveling. And everybody, if you just look in the description below, you'll see all the links to his books and his website and all of his wonderful items that he has. And so we just want to thank everybody for being here, and we will see you on the other side.